Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? Today's Thursday, June 18, 2026, coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming live on the Black Star Network on this Juneteenth week. It was a star-studded event on Chicago's South Side today as thousands gathered for the opening of the Obama Presidential Center, which will open to the public tomorrow. Every living legitimate president was there. Of course, the petulant, twice-impeached, criminally convicted felon-in-chief, diaper-wearing Donald the Con Trump didn't make the guest list. We'll show you what took place there. We've said it over and over and over again. These white folks are made. They aren't having babies. Fox News had an expert who said the problem is that 15 to 19-year-olds have stopped getting pregnant. I tried to tell y'all. A viral trend involving a black doll is sparking conversations and showing just how much black people are hated across the globe. Also, folks, what's going on when it comes to the World Cup and Canada and the U.S. denying African nations from attending? It's time to bring the funk on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Let's go.
Whatever the piss, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the fine. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, roll, roll, y'all.
Stevie Wonder. This is how it is, Southside 87. On stage with Jennifer Hudson and John Legend. This is how it be in the center, Obama Center. It's colder than winter, so beautiful, so beautiful. What I gotta do, check it out, it's usual. Usual like common for me and you. This is the type of thing that we can do. Like you too, just like Bono. We came to rock and hit live in Chicago. Yo, it's like this, we got the dream. On stage with Bruce Springsteen. How can it be things can get better? Thank God I'm here with Eddie Vedder. We get it all together, we can storm. Constant show, you know the whole form. When it goes on, it keeps going on and on. Yo, I can keep lighting. You can say respect to Joe Biden, President Biden, and Coach Bush. This is how we do, yo, Operation Push. As I push on down, I'ma keep jamming. Respect to who? Fred Hampton, and of course, all my people here in Washington. You know how we do, we all equal, saying the thing. This is like this Dr. King. We did it like this. Compton, we don't need no drama. Respect to Obama and Michelle. This is how we dwell. You can tell, check it out, never fail. This is like this when I come down, y'all. I can stay, yo, we can stand tall. Yo, this is like this shot town. We gon' take you, Stevie, to higher ground.
Stevie Wonder, John Legend, Jennifer Hudson, Common, Bruce Springsteen, Bono, and many others joined the thousands of people who flocked to Chicago for the opening of the Obama Presidential Center. The $850 million facility was open. President Barack Obama was joined by 3 former presidents, including President Joe Biden, President Bill Clinton, President George W. Bush. It was the opening of the museum and grounds. It's a 19-acre facility there. You see, of course, Vice President Kamala Harris was also there. The opening festivities brought together politicians, celebrities, athletes, and other internationally known figures. Longtime Obama advisor Valerie Jarrett, who is CEO of the Obama Foundation, gave the official welcome to the event.
Good morning to all of you who are here in Chicago, who traveled from near and far. Oh my goodness, you're here to celebrate with us, and many of you came through some pretty atrocious weather. And to everyone watching from home, this is a glorious day, and it is for all of you, and the sun is out. So we want you to enjoy the moment. Yes. I am thrilled to officially welcome you to the opening of the Obama Presidential Center. Now, this center is not a traditional museum, nor is today a traditional ribbon cutting. It's a day for music, for fun, and of course, it won't surprise you, for hope. Looking out at this fabulous crowd, I have to tell you, I am so tempted to sing my own rendition of Amazing Grace, but I think I'll save that for another day. Instead, I invite everyone to cheer and dance and get on your feet and enjoy yourselves. This is a campus for everybody, whether you live down the street or on the other side of the world. And we hope you are going to come back again and again. To President and Secretary Clinton, to President and Mrs. Bush, to President and Dr. Biden, all of our foreign dignitaries and elected officials who are here, we are honored by your presence. To our Obama campaign and White House teams, to our generous supporters, this day would not have been possible without you. To our neighbors who showed up to countless community meetings and shared their hopes and dreams, and yes, their concerns with us. We hope we have made you proud.
Former First Lady Michelle Obama delivered a powerful speech at the opening, singing her husband's praises.
I got my tissue in hand. I don't know about all of you. Wow. Hello, everyone, and what a beautiful day, right? Nothing like a project by my husband to bring out the sun. Let me start by thanking Addison for that magnificent introduction and for exemplifying the heart, excellence, and determination that has blossomed right here on the South Side for a very long time. I also want to send some love to everyone who made this day a reality. The construction workers, landscapers, designers, the architects, artists, chefs, our staff, our board members, our donors. Barack and I simply cannot thank you enough for the care and brilliance you poured into every square inch of this campus. I also want to recognize all of the elected officials and distinguished leaders from around the city, the state, the country, and yes, the world. The state, the country, and yes, the world. Thank you for being here to celebrate with us, especially to all of my fellow formers, to Joe and Jill, George and Laura, Bill and Hillary. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for your service to our country over so many years. And for your constant friendship and support of our family. We love you guys, truly. Oh, to our daughters, Malia and Sasha, who will always be my babies, even though we're no longer playing hide and seek on the South Lawn with Bo or hosting sleepovers in the solarium. I see a lot of some sleepover girls here. You both have grown into such brilliant and beautiful young women, making your way out there in the world. Thank you for bringing so much joy and spirit and energy to a life you had no voice in choosing, and for making us proud every step of the way. Love you, babe. Oh, so please indulge me for a moment, because I'm gonna take a little time to do something that I know my husband will not do today, and that is to fully sing his praises. Barack, you gotta look at me. You told me all those years ago that you couldn't promise me the world, but you could promise me an interesting life. And of course, you outdid yourself and managed to give me both. I know it hasn't always been easy, but there hasn't been a single second through this experience that standing by your side hasn't left me in awe. 8 years in the crucible, and not once did you melt from the heat. Not once did you let it harden you. Instead, you used it to reveal your truest essence, your stubborn optimism and unflinching courage, your dazzling brilliance and unpretentious decency, your ferocious work ethic, and absolutely unshakable moral fiber. And to do it all as a first, and the higher standard that comes with all that, the claims that a US senator and constitutional law expert wasn't qualified for the job, the lies about your birthright, your faith, your patriotism, the outrage when you stated the biological fact that if you'd had a son, that he too would be black. Yet, you were unflappable at every turn, always focused, always calm, always looking at the long view. How absurd it is to even imagine that you might have buckled under the pressure even once, lashed out in frustration, lost your temper. How absurd it is to imagine that you might have done anything but make our family and this entire country proud.
Former President Obama christened his presidential center with a speech thanking the people in the city that led the way for him to go to the Oval Office.
Mrs. Bush, President Secretary Clinton, thank you for being with us today and for your devotion to our country. And President and Dr. Biden, thank you for your steadfast partnership for 8 years. Joe, we started as running mates and ended as family. And we would not be here without you. And we are grateful. To our amazing foundation staff and our amazing board, to Governor Pritzker, Mayor Johnson, thank you for making this center possible. To congressional leaders and foreign dignitaries who've made the trip, I cherish our partnership together and all we got accomplished together. Thank you. To Michelle, she did me wrong. She wouldn't let me see her speech. She knew she was going to mess me up, and she did it anyway. But she's always made me better. And I could not be more grateful. And to Sasha and Malia, what can I say? You mean everything to me. More than 40 years ago, on a late summer afternoon in 1985, I arrived here in Chicago, entering the city through the very spot where this center now stands. I can still picture myself heading down what was then Cornell Drive in a janky used car that I'd bought in New York, with all my worldly possessions stuffed in the trunk and the back seat, so I really couldn't see out of the rearview mirror, and I was a safety hazard. And I was 23 years old. I'd just been hired by a group of churches on the South Side to help organize a part of the city that had been battered by steel plant closings and chronic neglect. And I didn't have much organizing experience. Didn't know anybody in Chicago. But I had been inspired by the civil rights movement, and I knew I wanted to make a difference. And although I wasn't sure exactly how I was going to do that, I was possessed with this abiding faith that if we could give people more of a say in the forces that govern their lives, if we could bridge some of the differences that drove us apart, then we could build an America where everyone counts and everyone has a fair shot and everyone belongs. even a mixed-race kid with a weird backstory and a name nobody could pronounce. And it was here, in this city, a city of broad shoulders, that I found what I was looking for. Day by day, block by block, I got to know the people who lived here, their hopes, their dreams, their tragedies and their triumphs. I witnessed their resilience in the face of hardship and the quiet heroism of a single mom raising her kids and sending them to college on a secretary's salary, or the priest electing to stay in the city and open his doors to at-risk youth, even as most of his flock had fled to the suburbs. I learned that leadership has less to do with titles or rank or chasing attention than with helping others find their voice, reaching their potential, and sitting around people's kitchen tables or on their back porches, spending time in church basements, in barbershops. I was reminded that everyone has a story to tell if you just care to listen. Sacred stories, full of courage and humor and grace, and that each of those stories in some way connected to my own. In other words, I found my purpose here, and I fortified my faith here, and I found my community here, friendships that would last a lifetime. And I found a girl from the South Side who has been my greatest blessing. Michelle and I, our wedding reception was over at South Shore Cultural Center. You could walk from here. Our daughters were born right down the street. This is where we bought our first home. This is where our kids took their first steps. This is where I launched my candidacy for the Illinois State Senate over at the Ramada Inn on Lakeshore Drive, serving pretzels and soda, embarking on the path that ultimately and improbably led to this day. So, for me, this center could not be any place else. It's an expression of thanks, an acknowledgement that so much of what I hold most dear I owe to the people of this city and the people of these surrounding neighborhoods. And it's why we designed the center not to be some lifeless mausoleum. I am too young for that. Not just a place to see Michelle's dresses, although I understand that will be the top attraction. We wanted it to be a vibrant, living celebration of community, where we can learn together and share the joys of art and music and sport and play. Because it's in those moments that we're reminded of our common humanity. And strengthen the bonds of trust that not only make our lives richer, but make our democracy stronger. Now, we also wanted this center to be a celebration of the extraordinary public servants, many of whom are here today, that made this journey possible. Some of you helped get me elected. Some of you I had to talk into joining my administration. Some of you were seasoned veterans who helped show a rookie president the ropes. But a lot of you were younger than I was when I first drove into this city. And we're all a bit older now. Many of you have children of your own, even grandchildren. But the passage of time has only deepened my admiration for your talent and your dedication and your skill. It's only deepened my gratitude for how much you and your families sacrifice to make this country better. So when you visit this center today or in days to come, I hope you see yourselves and your hard work reflected in every exhibit. And I hope you take pride in what we accomplished together. You made that happen. Now, of course, we did not accomplish everything we set out to do. No administration does. Some of the exhibits reflect unfinished business. In some cases, my own shortcomings and mistakes. In some cases, because, as a sign I kept on the Resolute desk read, hard things are hard. And that's especially true in a big, raucous, diverse, argumentative democracy like the United States of America. Everybody's got an opinion. And that means getting stuff done involves reconciling the demands of a couple of 100 million people. Democracy can be frustrating. It can be slow. It can be inefficient. And yet, more than anything, I hope this center will serve as an affirmation of just how special, how precious our democracy truly is, and remind us what we can achieve when we embrace our shared responsibilities as citizens.
Folks, you can catch the full stream, obviously, on the Obama Foundation YouTube channel. It's bringing my panel, Dr. Greg Hart, Department of Afro-American Studies, Howard University, out of D.C., Reese Colbert, host of the Reese Colbert Show, Sirius XM Radio, also from D.C., Dr. Larry J. Walker, Associate Professor, University of Central Florida, out of Orlando. I'll start with you, Reese. Obviously, today, historic opening of the Obama Presidential Center, first black president, now 44th president in this country. Just your thoughts on today.
I thought it was a beautiful day. I lived in Chicago through Obama's second term, so I know how much Chicago means to President Obama and how much President Obama and the Obama family means to Chicago. So I wish that I wish something like this was around when I was there, but to see the South Side transformed and become a kind of a mecca of Obama, you know, his term and what he's done is so heartwarming to see. And it's just good to see decency. It's good to see President Obama celebrate it. I think now we take for granted with this critical culture about everything nitpicking people to death. We take for granted how significant it was to have a President Obama, to have a Michelle Obama, to have a Sasha Malia Obama be the first family, and even to have a Marion Robinson be the first grandma of the United States. And so I'm really happy to see him and his family be able to kind of take back their legacy away from just the hypercritical political critique around it, and really put it in perspective about how much they were able to accomplish and how tough it was during those times. It's never been easy to be a Democrat in this country, to get things done. The Tea Party sprung up. They had effigies of Obama burning when he got into the White House. They had Mitch McConnell vowing to make him a one-term president and didn't. And so I think that he deserves this. Michelle deserves this. Chicago deserves this. So I'm really, really happy to see today. And I'm happy to see that there is a place that feels a little bit more normal than the white trash house that we have here in D.C. right now.
Obviously, it was a significant gathering, $850 million facility Larry, we were there a couple of weeks ago where they had a grand opening. Took a tour of it, and the whole idea with this campus is that it's not just a traditional presidential museum. You've got a garden, you've got a playground, you've got a four-court gymnasium, you've got even this slide that's there as well. And so, and then once you go in, it's not just focused on his 8 years as president, but also it deals with other issues such as civil rights and the continuing quest for democracy in this country.
And Roland, I think the really interesting thing about what President Obama highlighted in the clip that you played is that he is still really young. And I think that what you described about, the facility and, he not being like a mausoleum because he's got, certainly a lot more years in terms of public service that can contribute not only to the United States, to the world. But I want to go back to something, Reese talked about is, and hearing him talk, it reminds me of the importance of class in our society. And obviously, there's a lack of that. We really miss him as president, to hear him speak and be clear and concise about what he's talking about. And also, highlighting his journey, and which essentially is the American dream, despite all of the things he had to deal with. And let's remind the most controversial thing that he did was wear a tan suit. And in comparison to all the other issues we had to deal with from the White House over the last couple months, even within the last few days. But I certainly want to congratulate the Obamas. This is a major accomplishment. This is the first Black president in U.S. history. And once again, hearing him speak is a reminder of that hope and the pride that many African Americans had throughout his presidency. And no president, as he noted, is perfect. But once again, it's refreshing to see some class and to be able to clearly articulate what are some of the more important things as it relates to what a true democracy is supposed to be.
One of the things that this is first of all not a presidential center, Greg, that will be under the government's control. It's a private foundation in terms of how it's set up. Also, they plan on hosting any number of other things. And I think that when you look at other presidential centers, I dare say presidential libraries, I dare say, Greg, the model truly is Jimmy Carter in terms of the work of a former president and how he used the Carter Center and his work across the world to really advance democracy and to challenge dictators. And so he really is, I believe, the gold standard in terms of how a former president can still be a public servant.
I think you may be right, Ron. We'll see in 50 years what John Ossoff does. People are trying to mold him into some kind of, I think, 21st century Jimmy Carter. Who knows? But I've been to Egypt a dozen times. I know what it looks like to attempt to build on a monumental scale in a way that will put your stamp on the earth that will survive your death. The minute a pharaoh is elevated to the pharaoh position, they began working on their tomb. This obelisk, the north end of Jackson Park, where Black folks barbecue, golf, and all that kind of thing, those things are still there, obviously. It is on the south side, but it's in Hyde Park. I think this is an attempt, as all presidents do, to not only narrate and shape the narrative in terms of what the president did, but to shape the future narratives of what he did. So before I say anything else, I just want to say this. Reverend Dr. Jeremiah Wright, we love you. We understand that while the wedding reception was at South Shore Cultural Center that I've been too many times and y'all have been too many times, the wedding was at Trinity United Church of Christ. Okay, about 8 miles from there. So that having been said, this center is inspirational. There's going to be a lot of good work that comes out of it. And it's a very deliberate attempt to narrate the Obama presidency. And I think what Barack Obama represents, and I don't think that Black people in this country will be able to have a mature conversation about the Obama presidency in my lifetime. I would love to see it, but I don't expect it. We've been traumatized too much, and it's very difficult for us. I wonder how they will treat foreign policy, particularly the destabilization of North Africa and some other things, deportations. Maybe to be talked about, maybe it won't. I'm looking forward to looking through everything, although not researching, because you said it's a presidential center. The archives are here in the DMV, in College Park, at the National Archives. It's not a slip of paper in this completely digital Barack Obama archive. And, you know, that was very deliberate, as Valerie Jarrett has said. You know, the days of putting stuff in paper are over. Thank God that that's not the case. But at any rate, it's going to be a lot of inspiration. I think everything from Idris Khan, the letters ensconced there in that beautiful hall there, I think it's the 8th floor, you know, the Sky Room, which are from the speech that he gave on the 50th anniversary of the Selma and Montgomery March, tying him to that civil rights tradition, while at the same time not allowing himself to be so tied to that tradition that it doesn't forward for the kind of neoliberal politics of the Democratic Party, including Bill Clinton and others, whose predecessors, for all their rhetoric, would have been on the other side, I think, in many ways of that movement. I don't care if you volunteer to call some phones, Bill Clinton. We're very clear about who you are, sir. Njideka Crosby's portrait of the Obamas, beautiful. Like the art, the music, the light, it's going to be a beautiful conversation. There are going to be incredible things there. And at the same time, with those possibilities, I think the limits of the presidency as a conduit for Black power in this country are also represented by the Obamas. I respect the president. I respect the first lady. I respect their vision for a more perfect union. And I absolutely understand that this is a criminal enterprise that cannot be redeemed. And as Sterling Brown said, he wants to be integrated into American society. But at the heart of the word integration is integer. I want to come in as my whole self. And I can't wait to see how the question of Black power, Black political power, Black cultural power is there. Hey, Stevie Wonder is great. Common, you know, it's great. But Black political power? In the South Side, 20 years, he was a member of Trinity United Church of Christ. He got married there. You understand? When he came to Chicago, those people embraced him and allowed him to become part of a community where Jeremiah Wright and that congregation was solving the question of class. Not class in terms of how you dress and how you appear, but social and political and economic class, and how the Black elite must not separate themselves from the Black masses. I want to see how that's grappled with in this Senate. It's going to try very hard to narrate that Obama presidency. So I guess, brother, we'll see.
And as always, any presidential museum is about forming a narrative and framing it in a way that they like. I mean, that's always been the goal. Hell, Richard Nixon did that with his library. You go to the Reagan Library in Simi Valley, California, the LBJ Library on the campus of the University of Texas, the George W. Bush Library at Southern Methodist University in Dallas, the George H.W. Bush Library at Texas A&M University in College Station. I mean, that's what they do. Larry Gray makes a point in terms of when he says how African Americans are going to view the presidency, and the reality is that even now, I mean, there are people who do not tolerate any type of criticism, discussion. I've had folks close to the Obamas say, "Man, Roland, why were you so tough?" And I said, "Let me be real." What I've always said is this here, and I actually said this before he was inaugurated. I wrote this in Essence magazine. I put this in my book as well. When I said the achievement is not electing him, the goal is what do you then do with that power? And that's really what it's all about. So I don't care whether it's President Obama, whether it's Governor Wes Moore, whether you got Aaron Ford, the Attorney General of Nevada, who's running for governor right now. He's a captain. We went to Texas A&M together. Whether you have somebody who's a mayor or a city council member, school board member, county commissioner, I really do believe that what we have to do as African Americans is look at somebody and celebrate. So in the case of Obama, it was, yes, the first black president, but I think for many of us, we forgot he was the 44th. And so now that this is built and people will visit, and I already see people in chat saying that I've got my tickets, the question then becomes, okay, what now? What role can he and she still play as public servants beyond their Netflix deal or their media deal? There still are substantial issues that we are being confronted with in this country, but also in this world. When Greg talks about African nations, this is all what's on the table, and so I think that's also how folks are going to be looking at this. And it's one thing to say, sure, let's visit a presidential center and let's relive those glory days, but it's also those days that put us in the position we're in now because of the white backlash that followed those days.
Yeah, absolutely, Roland. And I think it's really important that, we talked about, President Obama, Governor Moore, and obviously when we have these firsts, we note it, we celebrate it as a community, but your politics and govern also matter and are critical, right? Once we've checked that box, what are sacrifices you're willing to do to make sure that the people who supported you, as he talked about when he was a state senator, I remember, him losing when he ran for Congress and losing to Bobby Rush, and that helped in many ways kind of reorient in terms of where he ended up down the line and becoming the first black president. But it's really important, particularly during these days, and you mentioned Jimmy Carter as an example in terms of the work he did after, and in many respects known for the work he did after he left the presidency. President Obama has the opportunity, considering he talked about his age and his connections and the resources available, to really do some things in terms of making sure, in particular, that some of the challenges the African American community is encountering and other minoritized groups, that he's willing to really step out there and avoid in many respects in terms of some of the things, resources, money he can raise, not only there in Chicago, Illinois, but places like Philly, where I'm from, and other, rural areas where there are a lot of black folks in Mississippi and Louisiana, et cetera, to make sure we address issues relating to public health, to politics and getting more elected officials, considering all the anti-gerrymandering laws we're dealing with. So he has an opportunity to, like I said, to fill a void in terms of addressing certain issues. Somebody say that's a lot of pressure, but when you check the box, the big box, like he did, and had the support he did in the black community, the work is ongoing and it doesn't stop.
Absolutely. Again, you're going to have people who obviously are going to make this a destination there in Chicago. What we'll be also watching for over the next several years, Reese, is seeing how the South Side is transformed. Can the Obama Presidential Center become the centerpiece, if you will, of development? And when we say development, do we also benefit from that development as residents and also business folks? I mean, listen, there are people who that was a serious fight with community folks when it came to a community benefits agreement when this thing was first proposed. And there were some serious debates and discussions that were going on when this happened. And there's been displacement. What supposedly there's supposed to be, Jackson Park Golf Course is supposed to be completely redone. I think it's supposed to be a Tiger Woods design golf course. We'll see what, the question is, does it still remain affordable? What about housing in that area? Obviously, with President Obama, the goal is to attract and bring world leaders and others there as well. So all of that is what folks are waiting to see what unfolds.
Yeah, and I think those are all very fair things to see and hold to account. I think, number one, I've been saying this the entire time of the Trump administration, the cavalry is not coming for Black people. It was not coming for America. And so I don't look at the Obamas as the cavalry, as necessarily even the leader of the Blacks, okay? They are private citizens with a very important role in history. They have the capacity, obviously, to play as big of a role as they choose in the future. But I'm just not in the space, and this is me personally, this is Reese Goldberg, okay? I'm not in the space personally of putting anybody on a pedestal of people who have the solutions and the answers and the willingness to make things happen for us. We're going to have to make things happen for ourselves. We're going to have to look to a wide array and breadth of people to buy in, to lead, but also march alongside us. And so I think a lot is put on the notion of a charismatic figure, of a particular leader who has the right answers and has the right delivery and all these things. But even when you have somebody like that, in theory, in Obama, there's still always going to be tension in our community, with each other, with leaders, with politics, with activism, with academia, and so on and so on and so forth. So I don't think that this marks a turning point in any of that. I think that this is just a space that will exist, and around that space and around these figures who are human beings that are beloved by many, there will always exist that tension. It's perfectly fair, in my view, to call out things that seem hypocritical or call out things that seem harmful. But I just don't think that there's any particular person, there's any particular policy that's going to transform, going to be that thing that we've been searching for generations to make the difference for us. The only difference that's going to be made for us, I think, comes from within us figuring that out for ourselves.
Well, I can't wait until February 2027 when my new book drops that speaks exactly to what you just talked about. And so, yeah, it's going to go on pre-sale in September. We literally are editing it. I just got the cover design today. Can't show it. But just understand that what you just described is exactly what I'm talking about in that book. All right, folks, going to a break. We'll be right back. Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Folks, let me tell you about Chapter. Now, if you're on Medicare or about to be, the system is not set up to work for you. Too much fine print, too many plans, and too many people making money off of your confusion. And look, we're used to this. We're no strangers to systems that don't have our best interests at heart. But we don't have to accept it when it comes to Medicare. That's why I'm telling you about Chapter. Their advisors are independent and honest. In fact, they're the only Medicare advisors that compare every plan nationwide. And they're focused on one thing: what works for you. If there's a better plan out there, they'll find it. If you're already in the right one, they'll tell you that too. There are no games. Just last year, people who switched with Chapter saved an average of $1,100. It's 20 minutes and a real person. It's completely free. My parents actually have already called. My mom sent me a text. Folks, give Chapter a call at 724-264-8281, 724-264-8281, and connect with someone you can trust. Folks, these are the kind of services that we need for our audience here at Roland Martin Unfiltered and the Black Star Network. So call Chapter right now, 724-264-8281.
Carl Payne pretending to be Roland Martin. Holla!
You ain't got to wear black and gold every damn place, okay? Ooh, I'm an alpha, yay. All right, you're 58 years old. It's over.
And you are now watching
Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Uncut, unplugged, and undamn believable.
How long have I told you white folks have been losing their minds in this country because they are not going to be the majority? 2043. Now, the reason you're seeing the attacks on immigration, I saw one report that said that that's now 2050. They're trying to slow down that from happening. And Elon Musk, oh my God, that racist has just spent tons of time on posting on Twitter about fertility rates, and that's all you've seen, And folks have been asking, wait a minute, I don't understand, what's going on? And you see all of these different stories. Oh, it's because women are in the workplace. Oh, it's because people are concerned about affordability. It's all those things. But do you want to know why a major reason why the American fertility rates have declined as a result? I mean, have declined so much? It's because of teenagers not getting pregnant. This was discussed on Fox News. And listen to what one of their experts said.
Absolutely. We still have 3.6 million births a year, but the problem is teens and young adults. From ages 15 to 19, the fertility rate is down 7%, and it's down 70% over the last 2 decades, meaning we're telling people that are young not to have babies, to wait till they're in a more stable life situation, till they're more financially secure, maybe they haven't found the right partner.
Okay, I want to play that again, and I want you to listen very clearly to what he said.
Absolutely. We still have 3.6 million births a year, but the problem is teens and young adults. From ages 15 to 19, the fertility rate is down 7%, and it's down 70% over the last 2 decades, meaning we're telling people that are young not to have babies, to wait till they're in a more stable life situation, till they're more financially secure, maybe they haven't found the right partner.
This is what he said. We're telling people who are young not to have babies. Yeah. See, what a lot of people don't want to confront is that America has been based upon young girls getting pregnant, birthing babies. And what you've seen over the past 30 years, you've seen a dramatic focus on encouraging them not to. Duh. Encouraging young men not to impregnate. I don't think for a second it's a bad thing that 15, 16, 17, 18, and yes, 19-year-olds are not getting pregnant. But see, you have to understand what this country focuses on. Go to my iPad. NPR dropped this story, April 9, 2026. Teen birth rates hit another historical low in 2025, according to the CDC. And what the guy was saying right there, the teenage birth rate in the United States fell by 7% in 2025. Look at this here. A quote, a 7% decline is really extraordinary, says the report's lead author, Brady Hamilton, a statistician demographer with the center, which is part of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Look at this, y'all. Nearly 126,000 babies were born to mothers ages 15 to 19. The birth rate for that age group was 11.7 births per 1,000. By contrast, the teen birth rate in 1991 was 61.8 births per 1,000. Allow me to repeat that. 2025, the birth rate for mothers between the ages of 15 and 19, 11.7 births per 1,000. In 1991, that's 35 years ago, it was 61.8 per 1,000. That is a decrease, y'all, of 50.1. Have you seen these stories on Republicans in certain states refusing to outlaw teen marriage? See, once you start looking at data like this, now you begin to understand what this system also was built upon. You have politicians, mostly Republican, white conservatives, who don't want to provide food benefits, who don't want to get rid of student loans, who don't want to provide housing assistance, but they really want these teenage girls getting pregnant. Y'all, is right here in the numbers. And so because we've had a society that finally said, oh my God, we don't think it makes sense for 15 and 16-year-old girls to have babies, then the education and all those different things worked. We were just talking about Obama. Do y'all realize that Republicans criticized him for supporting reproductive rights? But are you aware that abortion rates kept dropping when he was president? It was because you also, see y'all, abortion rates were dropping and girls were not getting pregnant. Don't you think there's a correlation there? And so it's really important to understand why white people, why white conservatives hate this. They hate this because these are rural white girls. These are white girls in Kentucky, South Carolina, Mississippi, Alabama, Arkansas. And so now, because fewer of these white girls are getting pregnant, not getting married, they're like, oh my God, we don't know what in the hell to do. That's why their fertility rates are dropping across the country. And what you're seeing in Western nations, what I mean by that are white countries, they are totally freaking out over this issue. Why? Because they're the ones who are an endangered species. United States, Ireland, Germany, Italy, France, England. I can go on and on and on. White folks ain't having kids. And so in order for you to have a future, you literally have to replace people. In order for businesses to maintain production, economically that means GDP, gross domestic product, in order for you to continue to have an economy, the United States economy is a $30 trillion economy, number one in the country. China is number two at 19 trillion. In order to do that, you need people. I hope you now understand why this intensity, why you're seeing the reaction in public policy, because this is one of the reasons. Larry.
Roland, I'm glad you unpacked a lot of that. Listen, you can't talk about infertility rates and then you just try to cut funding for WIC or dismantle the Affordable Care Act, all the things that people, make the child care tax credit permanent. The kind of things that are, really important as it relates to, when individuals decide they want to have children, that there's certain things in place that make it a lot easier, child care. We can go on and on and on in this country in terms of the economic challenges. But I'm glad you pointed out the connection between a lot of this rhetoric and the actual reality of what's happening today. It's really disturbing to see somebody go on television and talk about the importance of underage girls having babies. And there's this really weird fascination with the women's body. Obviously, we know in terms of women's rights movement the last several decades, women have had the opportunity to work outside the home, not have to be dependent on a husband, and have all the educational opportunities that they deserve. They're trying to turn the clock back, but it's not going to happen. There's nothing in place to encourage people to have children, certainly as they get older and more mature. But Roland, you're right in terms of higher education, in terms of student loans and grants and some of the other things they're trying to make it more difficult for people to have opportunities. And I guess the assumption is that they'll start having children. You can't make it more difficult for people to decide to have children at one point, and at the same time say, no, we don't want any people immigrating here. These trends that they're talking about, Roland, are not new. The trends are not new. If anyone like myself who's a researcher, these trends have been known for years, for decades, for demographers. So that's why immigration plays such an important role. But you're telling people don't come here, and the folks that are here came here, you're like, you need to go too. You can't have it both ways. The United States can't continue to be an economic superpower, and then you have all these contradictory policies. And I go back to my point again. You can't cut WIC and all these other important programs that people need, that many people have benefited from. The last point I want to make is, Roland, is my mom, I had a teenage mother. And if it wasn't because of the support of the Black community, my grandparents, et cetera, then I would have not been here where I am today. But a lot of folks don't have those support systems these days, family and economic. So it is not realistic to expect, once again, we have a dramatic increase of teenage mothers, because it's not going to work, because we know from the research it's not children don't benefit from parents who are just not ready. And so listen, we need some new policies, and we need some new policymakers who really understand what the average American is going through, and then that those individuals decide what they want to do as relates to family planning.
See, Reese, a lot of us don't pay attention to what happens across the pond. And in the last 15 years, I have seen a significant number of protests and riots in European countries. And actually was tied to immigration. And they don't want Muslims, they don't want Africans, they don't want you here. In fact, go to my iPad. This is video in Ireland. So there was an attack in Ireland where an immigrant attacked someone with a knife, and it's led to 2 days of rioting, protest. I saw this channel here. And then there were anti-racism riots in response to that. And people need to understand Ireland's about to fall off the map because they're not producing enough people, Reese. And so you're not going to have a country. You're not going to have an economy if you don't have people. But they don't want, it's like, oh, we care about, I remember Conor McGregor when he was at the White House, like, oh, the indigenous people in Ireland are getting screwed. No, the problem is y'all ain't screwing. You actually need immigrants to have a country, Ireland, or y'all are just going to be a bunch of land and few people. Right. And so this teen birth rate thing, people need to understand that that's a huge deal, and also is why these Republicans were so hardcore against Roe v. Wade.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, this party their policy is forced births. So, yeah, of course they don't want to see people who are the white people. Let's just be very clear about that. They don't want to see white people who are not procreating, because in order to have white power, and the way that they want white power, you need white people. But this is where I think there are divergent interests in the Republican Party, because you have Project 2025, Trump Crow is about pruning the population. You cannot look at the policies like Larry just laid out and say that that is a pro-population growth policy or strategy. It is about pruning the population. That's why they're cutting off Medicaid, which is something that children and the elderly, or not elderly, but children and people who have disabilities, need. They're cutting off WIC. They're cutting or cutting it, not cutting it off completely, cutting off SNAP, cutting off housing resources, cutting education. They're moving a lot of the responsibilities out of the education department into other departments. And so when we look at every facet of society and how those policies would either foster procreation or foster killing people off, their policies are erring on the killing people off side. So that's where they ain't got their shit together. The math is not math. Do you want people to have babies and have a fruitful amount of white folks at Panera Bread, white women and their 4 kids, stay-at-home moms, because you only need one house, one income to have a household and have a White House with a picket fence? Or do you want to have the powerful people get more and leave nothing but crumbs left behind? That's what I'm seeing, and I don't know how they reconcile it, but I do know that Trump Crow is not taking any prisoners, and that fertility rate for damn sure ain't going up no time soon with Project 2025.
See, Greg, if people paid any attention to what Charlie Kirk was saying beyond the racist stuff, what he was saying, and this is why these white boys are going so crazy, these white boys want us. They've been saying to these white women, get your ass back in your place. Y'all taking our jobs. We need y'all in the house. We need y'all laying down birthing babies. That's basically what he was saying. And this whole movement, that really was, how do you now begin to drive that narrative? Because this was about what Reese just laid out, protecting the future of whiteness in America.
You're right. Charles Christian Kirk and all the rest of you folks. It's too late, baby, now it's too late. It's too late. In the world, by the way. The United States is not an outlier in this regard. China has this problem. Japan has this problem. Most of the countries in the world have this problem. The continent of Africa does not have this problem yet. But it looks like perhaps in 2 generations, its population will begin to decline. The species, Homo sapiens, is headed toward a radical shrink in terms of the number of people. And so here in the United States of America, as purebred racists like Stephen Miller obsess about this, you can't have enough babies, but you can't have enough babies in Germany or France or Ireland or England. And as you say, immigration is something that is used by crass politicians to attempt to gin up votes so they can remain in power. But behind those politicians are the oligarchs who have an entirely different agenda. They still need electoral politics to put the people in place to get the policies they need. But Elon Musk, who is trying to impregnate all of the white women in the world, apparently, it still won't be enough. But he's not trying to grow a population of Homo sapiens. See, he has AI for that. He's got his robots for that. He's got his Mars colony with 1 million people in it that he has used to pull off the biggest fraud scheme, not even fraud yet, but the biggest snake oil scheme in the history of capitalism, by getting a valuation that makes him a trillionaire for 5 minutes until that bubble pops and everybody loses their mind. At the heart of this is competing strategies. The oligarchs are looking past the species because they think ultimately the technology will be able to replace the species, so this is going to be a problem. But those who rule over whoever's left, they want to be white. You know, they say everything else with their chest. Isn't it interesting that this man on Fox, as you say, Reese, you should just say white. You don't mean black. There was a study, a couple of researchers at Hofstra, I think it was. They looked at CDC data over the last, maybe, I think from 2016 to 2024. 33 million live births in the United States. And you know what they saw? They saw that white women gave birth to 49.6% of the babies over that period born in the United States of America. Non-white women, Black, Asian, Latino, of all backgrounds that are not white, gave birth to 50.4% of all the babies. So as the population shrinks in this country, the majority of babies born over the last decade ain't white. So here's the final problem they have. Countries in capitalism operate, as we've just heard, on immigration. We were not just property. We were a capital asset. A car sitting at your house is property. A car you use to drive Uber is a capital asset. We weren't just property. It was our labor that literally constructed the modern world system. Without immigration, this country is going to die. As far as I'm concerned, we need to start making up with our cousins around the world, because when this thing collapses, and it's already on the back end, Xi Jinping tried to tell Trump last month, We need to be clear about what's happening so that we can kind of pull our way out of this death spiral this country is in and begin to plan for what comes next, because it's inexorable. This is not going to stop.
See, one of the reasons why y'all who watch this show, why y'all are smarter than any of those people who on MSNBC, who watch MSNBC, CNN, and Fox News, is because, one, we ain't been sugarcoating this. I'll give you a perfect example. Okay? Pound, y'all remember this. When they had those raids on those farms in Nebraska, the Republican governor of Nebraska called Trump, hey, man, hey, dog, listen, I'm going to need you to slow this shit down. I've lost 6% of my state GDP. South Texas, they're like, hey, man, what y'all doing? These damn raids are impacting the construction industry. Y'all, listen, construction industry, farming. Y'all see where we're getting at? It's about resources. Greg is absolutely on it. And we talked about Africa. See, this is why it's important to understand what's going on, the global world that we're living in. This is from the Pew Research Center. First, Africa's population has grown sixfold since 1950. Africa's population has grown rapidly since 1950 and is projected to keep rising through 2100. Watch this, y'all. Today, 28% of all people under 25 live in Africa, as does 19% of the overall population. Look at this here. By 2100, nearly half of the world's young people will live in Africa. Y'all, and now, check this out. By 2100, Africa will have 12 of the world's most populous countries. Y'all, that means you're going to have a shift from the domination of the United States, France, Germany, England, Russia, China, South Korea. You need to understand this. And now you may ask, well, I don't understand how. It's number 4. This is it right here. Africa is the only world region where fertility remains above the replacement level. Look, it says right there, Africa's fertility rate, about 3.9 births per woman, is substantially higher than the global replacement level of around 2.1 births per woman. But there is significant variation in fertility rates across the region. For example, Chad's current fertility rate is 5.8 births per woman compared with 1.8 in Tunisia. So what does that mean? Tunisia is going to look like these white European countries because they ain't going to have no people. And they're going to have to import them. That's called immigration. What this here says is that for every child white women are having in the rest of the world, African women are kicking out twice as more. That's right. Y'all, this is a numbers game. See, so when Elon keeps tweeting about, he's complaining about fertility rates, he talking about white women. He ain't talking about black women. He ain't talking about black Africans. He talking about them white folks. And so this is what we need to understand. And we have to understand that, y'all see right there? Replacement level. You have to replace people. Ask China. We thought the Chinese were so great at math. No, they weren't. China had a one-child policy about 30 years ago. And y'all have to understand, these things are seen in 30 years. The reason that fertility rate said 1991, it was 61.8, and today, because 1991 was 35 years ago. The reason you look at these things in 30, 35 years, because that's when a person really comes of age. And so what happened in China? China had a one-child rule. They see that China was too populous. Listen, we got to slow this down. So they say you can have only one child. Here's the problem. 30 years later, China went, oh, shit. We've been replacing our people. They realized that the population had been dying, and so guess what happened? The folks were not trying to, them farm folk were coming into the cities. They were like, hey, can y'all start having 2 kids? Because China recognized, oh my God, if we don't change our policy, we're not going to be a world power. We won't be the number 2 economy in the world because you need people in order to produce your gross domestic product. And so I just want our people watching to understand, when you're looking at public policy decisions, what Stephen Miller is trying to do, he's trying to slow down the inevitable. What they're trying to do is they're trying to extend white power and white rule. Everything, the targeting of black people, the GOP war on black America, the whole effort to defund black America, the targeting of Latinos and immigration, it's all, man, if we can slow this thing down, if we can buy ourselves another 8, 10, 15, 20 years, that's what all this is about. All of these Supreme Court rulings and everything, and Product 2025 and the Supreme Court rulings are all about Jim Crow 2.0 and American apartheid. It doesn't look like it. Doesn't look like it, but I need y'all to understand what's going on here. What they want 30 years from now, this is 2026, what they desire in 2056 is for white folks to be able to be in control, to demand your papers, to have, see, y'all need to understand the long play here. See, this is why folk who bullshitted when Hillary ran in 2016 didn't understand the long play. See, too many of us were caught up in, I don't like her. Damn, not liking her. How evil is that son of a bitch? How evil are they? See, Reese, that's the thing that we try to explain to these people. Stop looking at this stuff through the prism of you, your checkbook, and today, and really pay attention to the broader, deeper implications. If somebody's out there supporting, look at all these white folks, these farmers now crying. You got these white women like, I regret my vote for Trump, because they now see what the hell is going on. And it's like, yes, you now aided and abetted that evil agenda.
Right. I said it over and over and over and over again. I said 2 things. I said citizenship was on the ballot, but I also said that women already don't have national citizenship because of Roe v. Wade being overturned. So women, more than anybody, especially the white women's, had the last opportunity to really solidify our citizenship. And people chose, I don't know what they wanted. They chose racism, sexism, egg prices, gas prices, and ain't none of that shit working out for nobody who's not filthy rich. That's why I know people want to call it Jim Crow, and I can see Jim Crow 2.0, but nobody is spared. Every time you turn on the news, you see the whites who are struggling. I saw a white lady voted for Trump 3 times, talking about every time she goes to the grocery store, it's more expensive. Yep, that's what a war will do. That's what higher gas prices will do. That's what closing of the Strait of Hormuz will do. That's what voting in funky-ass Donald Trump will do. But this was the choice that people made because people wanted white power. And they believed, like, the biggest propaganda that white people have been able to pull off is convincing white people that whiteness alone will ensure their survival. Well, it can't. Not when they trying to kill you off. When they trying to pick you off, they trying to pick off your rural hospitals. They're not giving you access to the broadband like Biden and Harris tried to get y'all. They shutting down everything that supports you and your communities because I agree with the whole idea of apartheid, but it ain't just simply all whites welcome. They want to pick off some of the lowest hanging fruit of the whites while they're at it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I just need people to understand Y'all, we ain't just here just saying stuff. I'm trying to tell y'all, this is not just about, the reason we look at, even historically, the stuff that W.B. Du Bois was talking about, the stuff that Paul Robeson was talking about. I mean, if y'all go back and read some writings and speeches of Paul Robeson was literally talking about stuff in the 1930s and 40s that are happening in Africa right now. The stripping of those nations, the stripping of the resources. Y'all, go look, please. Go study the Berlin Conference. Go study. We're going to talk about it. Let me go get this. We're going to talk about it. Tired of this here. Greg did this interview. See, y'all really need to understand what's going on. Y'all need to understand right now, when we see what's happening, and we're going to do it after the break with the World, matter of fact, I ain't taking a break. I'm with the World Cup. Canada and the United States are denying at a percentage of 70% or more folk coming from African nations. Canada has denied 73% of Ghanaians who have wanted to go to the World Cup in Canada. The United States has mostly denied Congolese from coming in. And not only that, Donald Trump and Elon Musk were the reason for Ebola exploding again. And guess what? They're telling folk, if you're coming from those countries, you got to sit here and be in quarantine for 21 days. See, I really need our folk to be paying a hell of a lot more attention to what's going on because, see, y'all don't understand how this stuff is linked, not understanding how these things go together. We've been sitting here, perfect example. I don't know how many of y'all have seen this. None of y'all already know I don't like no soccer, so I ain't been watching no soccer. But I pay attention to some other stuff. So y'all know I'm always paying attention. And that's always going to happen. And so how many of y'all have seen these photos and these videos of the brother from the Congo who stands up at games in a particular posture? Have y'all seen this here? See, this is it right here. Y'all seen this here? So, first of all, they call him Lumumba. They call him that because he is resembling, and that was the posture of Patrice Lumumba, the freedom fighter who led them to freedom from the heinous, evil, despicable Belgians. If y'all want to talk about Hitler, talk about King Leopold. Yeah, y'all watching at home. I want y'all to Google King Leopold. King Leopold, that absolutely evil, despicable individual, killed some 15 million Congolese and stripped the country of its resources and put into his own pocket. But the United States helped kill Patrice Lumumba. Okay, I want y'all, show it again. So this brother here, y'all, this ain't just about I need y'all to understand, this ain't just about no soccer, no football. This brother here stands at every game, doesn't move, and what he is doing is he is channeling Patrice Lumumba. What you need to understand is, why is that so important in 2026, in the year that America is celebrating the 250th anniversary? Because it was the order of President Eisenhower to assassinate Lumumba that is recorded. That was the first time in American history where a president directly said he got to go. Greg interviewed Stuart Reed on this book right here. And we're going to stream it. I think I told Keenan to get it ready after the show. Y'all, the book is called The Lumumba Plot, The Secret History of the CIA and a Cold War Assassination. The reason the Congo is still trying desperately to pull itself together as a nation is because this country killed the man that he is channeling. This country, 2 months after they gained their freedom, America said, no, hell no, no, he got to go. And that led to Congo becoming Zaire, led by a dictator. He killed thousands. Y'all, all this ties together. And so we're talking about Africa, the population and what's happening there. All of these African nations. Listen, we can talk about Obama's role in killing Gaddafi, destabilizing Libya. See, we could talk about Nigeria. So one of the reasons when we talk about these African nations, why they are in the condition that they are in is because of Britain, Germany, France, United States, going back to the splitting up of that continent, the Berlin Conference. Y'all, all these things are intermingled, and we cannot act like they are not. And so this is where we stand. And again, the denying of these entrants, supposedly for a World Cup, but the United States is like, no, and Canada, no, y'all can't come. No, y'all can't come. Oh, you can't do it. It really is important. So I do hope people don't just look at this brother and go, oh, man, he's dressed to the nines. He got the color. Now, Greg, he is not there just cheering on his country. What he is saying is, America, I am channeling the man who y'all killed. And when y'all killed him, y'all killed our country from being able to become a thriving African nation.
That's right, brother. Yeah, Bullet Dinga, the brother right there, is such an inspiration. You're right, brother. You know, the beautiful thing about these white nationalists is that they don't understand that we're just like them in this regard. Ronald Reagan knew his people came from Ireland. Donald Trump knows some of his roots. Stephen Miller knows his people fled persecution as Jews in Germany. I don't know why they don't realize two things. Number one, that we always cheer for black people, whether it's the Olympics. So the World Cup is lit. We ain't talking to people who can't afford to come from other countries. We talking to people, man, look, on Juneteenth, tomorrow night, Haiti is playing Brazil in Philly, and them Negroes is already turned up. Ain't none of them been to Brazil. Ain't none of them been to Haiti. That's number one. And number two, Roland, right now, the young sister that mic'd us up and got us ready, her people are Ghanaian. The call is coming from inside the house, brother. You don't need to get on a plane in Accra and get off in New York or get off in Toronto or get off in Mexico City. The Ghanaians live in the United States and they are second and third and fourth generation. So the World Cup isn't about the people coming who can afford to be in the stadium. The World Cup is about, as you said, the same type of transcendent camaraderie, cultural grounding that we saw on display at City Hall in New York City today when that racist owner of the New York Knicks tried to get a little shade at Mamdani, himself born in Uganda, and the people wasn't having it. They were too busy listening to Alicia Keys singing "I'm from New York," a multi-ethnic nation in the middle of this white nationalist criminal enterprise. Final thing I say is this about the World Cup, brother, because my nephew is overseas playing, and so he been playing since he is old enough to run and kick a ball. But here's the thing. You don't even have to follow soccer to understand the underlying cultural, the underlying spiritual, and the underlying political significance of African people. If you want a good laugh, go ask young people to go on social media, particularly TikTok, and look at what they're saying, because in the African Cup of Nations, when the African countries are playing each other, the Nigerian coach accused the Congolese coach of using juju at the match, and that's why Nigeria lost. And then getting off the plane, At the World Cup, they got a cat in all white mask with red lips and a red stripe here in traditional dress with the left, and they calling him Juju, and they say, man, look, I'm loving black people right now in the World Cup. The white people are going crazy. Hey, Steve, turn your TV and watch your little head explode, because you ain't seen nothing till you see black people get rowdy in a stadium. I'm loving it, brother. I'm loving it.
As we speak, and it started yesterday. The high-level consulate conference on the next steps to the landmark United Nations resolution on the trafficking of enslaved Africans. It's taking place in Accra, Ghana. I was invited. I was supposed to be there, but what I was trying to get from them an understanding of what interviews will we be able to do, stuff along those lines. I wasn't about to spend $40,000 to $50,000 of y'all money on crews and stuff like that if I didn't know that I'll be able to do some interviews. But I was literally invited to that 3-day conference and wanted to go, but it was just did not get the information in time. But I need our people to really paying attention to what's going on. You have African nations that are saying, you know what, France, we're tired of the franc. We're tired of y'all being able to control our resources. And I really want our audience to do, and again, if you don't feel like reading, that's why we have Roland's Book Club. That's why we got the Black Table. I went to my office, and there's another book that I grabbed. And see, if I can't do these interviews, that's why we got Greg. So Greg talked to this guy right here when he did the book, The Absolutely Indispensable Man, Ralph Bunche, The United Nations, and the Fight to End Empire. This is another book right here. And Cal Rostiala, he's the author of this book. And if you want to understand, if y'all want to understand what is going on today with African nations, the reason why you need to read these two books, Frantz Fanon, Kwame Nkrumah's book, is because what is happening is these African nations are now moving into their second phase. Their first phase was gaining freedom. Ghana was the first African nation to gain its independence. But then, of course, countries like the United States and others helped overthrow those countries. Those countries really went through a 20, 30, 40-year period of upheaval, and now they are slowly but surely, coming around. So these African nations, many of them are in their infancy when it comes to democracy compared to the United States. So we have to understand the moves that they are making in order to be independent and free. And what people don't even realize, you can easily move between European nations without visas. You cannot do that in Africa. And so these things are happening as well. But we just need to be aware of what's happening globally, because I think too many of our people, and I want to throw this out to the panel before we do go to a break, too many of our people are living in such isolation, and too many of our people are literally thinking about what's going on in terms of Alabama, Georgia, Mississippi, without realizing that the decisions that are being made in the nation's capital, decisions being made at the White House, at the Pentagon, decisions that are being made all over have global implications, and we need to understand that. And so that's one of the reasons why I keep saying to all of these Simple Simon Negroes who are trashing black immigrants, you need to shut the hell up, because an increasing percentage of the black population are black immigrants. And what I need for black people is to have a better understanding of African Caribbean nations And I need for those black immigrants to have a better understanding of the African-American existence, because the reality is we all need each other. I'm gonna start with you, Larry, Reese, then Greg, and I'm going to break.
Roland, you highlighted some really important points, and I know Dr. Carson agree with me, is the importance of Pan-Africanism. You talk about Marcus Garvey, Nakura, and the importance of the diaspora coming together to support each other. My wife is from Jamaica. You talk about people from other parts, people of African descent from other parts of the world, and understand the importance of our history, and also the importance of our history, and to understand that our ancestors were all just dropped off in different parts of the world, and certainly in here, the Western Hemisphere, and an example I just used. I want to make a connection, Roland, to I talk about the importance of Pan-Africanism, and we talk about the continent of Africa and its rise. The connection between you see with the current administration and them bullying African nations into giving up the rights to minerals.
Yep.
I want to repeat that again.
Come on.
Because you talked about this, Roland.
Come on.
It's a resource game. People have not been paying attention.
Donald Trump is like, y'all want some health stuff? Give me your stuff. Give me your stuff. Give me your stuff. Yep. Go ahead.
They have been forcing African nations to sign MOUs to make sure the United States can have access to vital resources. And this goes back to colonization in terms of what we talked about, the Congo and all these other countries that, had diamonds in South Africa. We could keep going on and on. Not only in terms of the population growth in African nations, but also the vast amount of resources that you can only find in certain countries, whether you talk about smartphones or laptops or whatever else you want to talk about. That is the economic game you see this administration playing in terms of, once again, bullying these countries, some of them small, but with enormous resources, signing over a certain percentage of the rights to those minerals to make sure the United States benefits from that economically. But we, as people of African descent who live in this country, in terms of the diaspora in general, we have to be paying attention to that, because besides this show, Roland, no one else has been talking about that. And I've been watching it very carefully over the last couple of months. But we have to be careful, once again, we can't get into these diaspora wars, because we all we got. So once again, the idea of Pan-Africanism and the importance of that in terms of us working together collectively, in terms of what Garvey and many others talked about, in terms of making sure that people of African descent have the resources we need to make sure we can live, not simply live, but to thrive.
Somebody in the chat, Reese, said, Roland, tell North Sudanese Arabs to stop killing South Sudanese. I keep telling y'all, if y'all pay any attention, if you go back to the Berlin Conference, y'all, these existing borders that you see in Africa didn't exist. That was a creation of folks sitting around chopping up the continent in order to strip the continent. And so the reason you're seeing the fights today, because that stuff literally goes back to the Berlin Conference and in all of these different factions and fighting. More of us have got to be reading and studying. Reese, go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, I think that there is a disconnect and there is a wedge that has been not just fostered, but really cultivated through disinformation, through campaigns targeting the Black community to drive a wedge between Black Americans, ADOS, FBA, B1, Freedmen, so on and so forth, all the acronyms, and with immigrants and Black immigrants. Because when you look at the census and you look at the Black immigrants are helping us have Blacker numbers, right? And when you look at what this administration has done in terms of their mass deportation now, in terms of their trying to withdraw TPS from particularly Black countries, with their 100% white refugee admission of the white South Afrikaners, the white trash of South Africa, and 0 Black people, despite all of these conflicts around the world, we see where that lack of unity is really harming Black Americans. The birthright citizenship argument in front of the Supreme Court that Donald Trump is on. All of these things have been used in terms of immigration, have been used as a pretext to come after Black people. We saw it in Chicago. One of the first things that they did was they sent military aircraft to a building in Chicago on the south side of Chicago, since we're talking about Chicago today, and had military personnel, essentially, had government agents rappelling down the side of the building, trashing an entire apartment building that was already under slumlord conditions, pulling all of the residents out, separating Black and immigrants from each other. We saw story after story of Black people who are Americans who were being thrown into the back of U-Haul trucks and taken to facilities where they were detaining immigrants. So to the extent that we allowed this immigrant versus Black American diaspora war type of attitude to permeate our culture, that's the same extent that we are undermining our political viability and our political capital. Because when these cops, when these ICE, when these lawless militias are going around like paddle rollers, as Dr. Carr would say, they're not worried about, oh, I think that they might be Haitian and Congolese, or, oh, that's just good old-fashioned Louisiana Black. They're not thinking like that. They just see a Black face and they think that you're not American and they treat you as such.
Greg?
That's right. Reese's right. John Clark used to say that, and Larry, it sounded like you challenged John Clark when you said the boat just dropped us off different places. He said the most racist, the most Pan-Africanist person in the United States is a New York City cab driver. He can't tell whether you from Haiti or whether you from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. He not gonna pick your ass up because you Black. So the whole point is that solidarity is already in place. And Africa has problems. You know, again, the Black Star Network, how fortuitous is that, brother? You in Ghana, you in Liberia, to name this the Black Star Network. What an expression of Pan-Africanism as we see the Black Stars of Ghana winning their initial World Cup match. And by the way, Congo tied Portugal, and all the people are like, oh my God, no, that's that juju, baby. And they're going to beat the next team. Anyway, but in this moment, you mentioned visas. The African Union has put something forward, a policy plan called, I think it's Africa 2063. So far, here are the countries you can go from one African country to another, and you don't need a visa to get in. Seychelles has been doing it for a very long time. The Gambia, you don't need a visa. Benin, you don't need a visa. Rwanda, you don't need a visa. Ghana, you don't need a visa as of January 2025. Kenya joined that list in July 2025. Togo joined that list last month, and the Republic of Congo, not the DRC, the center, but the one on the Atlantic. My dissertation advisor, Theophilo Benga, is from there. They announced they're going for January 2027. This is scaring the living hell out of these white supremacists, out of these white nationalists. Now, the big Congo, as you say, with the Ebola outbreak, thanks to little Marco and everybody stripping all this money out, Trump and these Project 2025 boys, the Democratic Republic of Congo is now trying to figure out how to keep their hands on more of the coltan that these Europeans, and including the Israelis and everybody else down there, trying to steal. And it is sending shockwaves through the continent. Again, you're right, Roland. Nobody, and Larry said this, nobody is talking about this in the way we're talking about it. To the descendants of slaves, now is not the time. That mentality is tired, it's dead. And when you know the history of our people, like you said, that Ralph Bunche book, Ralph Bunche spent his 20s and 30s talking about decolonization. When the UN was formed, he became the most, as Kyle Rastial says, the most indispensable man. But when he went to Congo, Patrice Lumumba said, nah, I don't know, because I know you want to help us, but you're the Negro, and I know you don't have the power. And it's breaking Ralph Bunche's heart. They gave him a Nobel Peace Prize for basically helping Israel establish its criminal enterprise, and you get caught up in it. The move now is not to get caught up in the United States. The move now is to expand outward. And, you know, we were going to interview, lining up the interview now. I talked to them a couple of days ago, Roland. Zizwe Poe, who's at Lincoln University, where Kwame Nkrumah and Nnamdi Azikiwe went to school, and Nkiti Taifa, who is one of the founders of in Cobra. They're having their conference here at the end of the month because they are in Accra right now. But I tell you what, I'm going to pass the information on to you so they can talk to you at RMU and give a report to all of us based on what happened in Accra, so that, you know, because we got people over there right now. It's a bunch of our people over there right now who coming back, and I'll make sure that, you know, you can interview them, and then we'll do something else.
Yeah, like I said, I really wanted to be there to cover the conference, but like I say, look, I was going to bring crews, and I said, listen, I need to know what's going to be the setup. Will we be able to lock down interviews? I'm not going there just to observe. I'm saying we had to cover it. Last thing here, I just want y'all to understand when we mentioned what we call the scattering of Africa, the Berlin Conference. This is right here. Look, this is 1880, what the continent actually looked like. On the right is what it looked like when they got done with it. How they carved up and created all of these different nations. You did not have, it's too many of us walking around listen, y'all, if y'all grown, that bullshitting from what you learn in school ain't nothing. Elementary school, junior high, high school, college, you could throw most of that away. I'm telling y'all, if you want to understand what is happening with geopolitics, what's happening in the world today, then you have to go outside of your comfort zone and you got to read. And listen, you may not have as many books as Greg got behind him. And trust me, if I was at my house right now, you would see the 10 bookcases I got at my crib. I got books all over the place. But y'all, I'm telling you right now, we're using this show to try to walk you through and to educate you and to get you to understand what is going on, because the public policy things that we break down are not about the next election. It's literally the next 20, 30, 40 years. In fact, we got we got an email today. Do y'all even know that they are changing how we frame minority banks? Did y'all understand what's going on? Listen, y'all, so many crazy things are happening that don't get covered at all. In fact, this is what's happening in the Department of Homeland Security. They have finalized a rule that restricts how discrimination can be penalized in federal grants totaling billions of dollars. The decision removes the government's ability to penalize funding recipients for policies that disproportionately impact minority groups unless there is clear evidence of intentional discrimination. The rule was signed by Homeland Security Secretary Mark Wayne Mullen and scheduled for publication in the Federal Register on June 22nd, officially eliminates disparate impact liability under Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 for the Department of Homeland Security and the Federal Emergency Management Agency. It also completely removes longstanding affirmative action provisions within the agency's grant frameworks by changing the standard from one based on effects to one requiring proof of intent. The policy fundamentally alters the landscape for tens of thousands of local governments, emergency services, and community groups that depend on DHS funding. For decades, federal civil rights enforcement operated under two standards. It banned overt intentional bigotry, and it prohibited facially neutral rules that had disparate negative impact on marginalized racial or ethnic groups. Now, check this out. While that thing is happening, you then have, again, how they're changing. See, this is all structural. Donald Trump has now shifted enforcement of civil rights from the Department of Education under his insane Department of Justice. Y'all, this is what's happening in our very eyes. Next week, because we're off tomorrow, we're going to talk about these rules regarding the banks. The National Bankers Association sent us a statement where what's going on is that the comptroller of the currency revised the policy statement on minority depository institutions. They narrowed the long-standing standard used to designate national banks and Federal Savings Association as MDIs. They emphasize the change applies only to OCC supervised institutions. The existing MDI designations remain in place, and the constructed path forward, anchored in the statute and in the partnership with the Department of Treasury, remains open. But again, they now want to reframe what is a minority deposit institution. We already had the ruling, Larry, a couple of years ago in Tennessee, where a white woman sued because she wanted to be a part of the Section 8, part of the affirmative action program. Now, here's what's so crazy. She got her money through the women's program, but she sued by saying she couldn't be part of the black program when she never even applied to be part of the black program. You've got two white men in Indiana that are sued, and the Trump department, the Trump lawyer said, oh yeah, we would love to completely get rid of a $37 billion disadvantaged business enterprise program. See, again, I need people watching and listening to understand their whole aim is to completely destroy and eradicate the civil rights and economic rights infrastructure that's created the opportunity, the minimal opportunities, the minuscule opportunities that we've received.
And Roland, this is a really important and powerful point. Let's expand that a bit beyond we just talking about the Civil Rights Act. Roland, they're trying to get rid of the Great Society programs. You know, we talk about the Fair Housing Act, right? We even talk about things like ESEA, Higher Education Act, all these other bills, which are all civil rights bills to adjust years of Jim Crow. And people, they're in some respects, they're very quietly doing it, and the impact that it will have, that will continue to have on black people beyond this administration. Because people are like, oh, you know, we have an election this year, we have election, presidential election a couple years. No, all these things that black people fought for took decades. And they're dismantling it just within a very short period of time. And it will take maybe another generation or two to get back to where we were just a couple of years ago. So it's going to be really important. But like I said, you talk about people watching the show and getting educated to understand what in some respects is happening quietly. And in other cases with this administration very loudly doing these things. But the problem with, you know, this new rule, among others, is that they have been doing it and will continue to dismantle, like you said, this relates to the Civil Rights Act, but many of these other opportunities that black people have fought for, then in many cases, other minoritized groups have benefited from and been able to build wealth, going to school, etc. We're all going to catch an L on this. And it's including white people who don't realize that they benefited from the Great Society programs, Civil Rights Act, Fair Housing Act, right? If one group benefits, then the economy, economic, political, and social system of the entire nation rises. But when you're focused on whiteness and what benefits us all, then this is where we find ourselves in the current situation. So it's going to be really important, not only in terms of the black community, but other groups who benefited from the sacrifice and deaths of black folks, or aware what's happening. And then we need them to speak up, because black folks have always been in the front line. Now it's time for some other folks to now step forward and realize that your lives and the lives of your children will be impacted by these economic decisions that are being made by policymakers who don't see you and don't want you to be here.
See, what was crazy, Reese, it was the 8A program of the Small Business Administration. And this white woman, Celeste Bennett, she sued saying that she was not eligible for the racial presumption part of the 8A program. And she claims her business lost out on opportunities to businesses that were in the program, even though she actually benefited from the women program.
Yeah, bitch, you ain't qualified for the black shit. You qualified for the women shit. And I bet you a whole bunch of black women couldn't get the women shit because your white ass was getting the women shit. So what? But this is the problem with the whites, is that they want us to have nothing.
Yep.
They're not satisfied with, well, y'all can get a little bit of scrap. Because we get 1% here, 2% there, 0%. They're never satisfied until we have nothing. So, yeah, of course. Well, I know I got mine, but you're not going to get yours, even if that yours is a fraction of what I was able to get. Because you can't tell me that there's more money in the black shit than there is in the women shit.
No, in fact, in the DBE portion of the program, white women get 78% of the disadvantaged business contracts. 78%.
Exactly.
African-American businesses got 2%. Now, under Bush, under Biden-Harris, that 2% represented $10 billion, the largest ever, but it's 2%.
Right.
And so these white folks we don't even want y'all to have 2%.
They don't want us to have nothing.
And in fact, under Trump, it's now down to 1.2%.
Right. And that's only because you, look, we don't die, we multiply. At a certain point, we're going to find a way to make a way out of no way. So that whole, what they're trying to do, they're never going to be able to accomplish entirely because we know how to make lemonade out of lemons. We know how to make $1 out of 15 cents. Something that they don't know how to do, which is why they got to rape, pillage, and steal everything. And they only look at everything as something that they can extract. And if you got it, I got to get it from you. But when you talk about minority deposit institutions, this goes back to the Biden-Harris administration and what they did through the U.S. Treasury in funneling billions of dollars, $8 billion, into these minority deposit institutions so that those institutions can serve underserved communities, Black for the most part, okay? And increase mortgage availability, increase small business capital and opportunities for them. And so by expanding what is a minority deposit institutions, that is by definition extracting money, capital, opportunity from underserved communities to the whites. And we've seen what's happened with this racial reckoning revolt that we're seeing in the Trump administration, the Trump regime more accurately put. Is that if you get people an inch to be like, okay, well, so we don't have to give it to the Blacks in order for it to count for something. Oh yeah, they're gonna take a motherfucking mile. So that's why you have more donors at the UFC 250 than you do at goddamn Essence. They struggling to try to get some to try to get some corporate sponsorship. Because as long as these corporations who've never been about altruism, never been about values, have an opportunity to funnel things to the whites, they will. Yep. So this goes back to dismantling the advances that we made under Biden-Harris that were step by step. It's foundational. You don't instantly get a bunch of Black people who got homes and small businesses that are thriving, but there's an investment there that will now be reversed and will be funneled to places that don't need them and to people that don't need them.
This is also, and going full circle, Greg, this is also why when you get power, you use it. See, this is why, and I'm telling you, Greg, I remember participating in a lot of conversations with a lot of very smart Black people with multiple degrees who were CEOs, and they were like, hey man, we really can't ask for a lot with Obama. Cause see, we don't want to make white folk mad because he might not get a second term. And I was like, you scared to ask for some stuff because somebody white who you don't even know may do something? I said, man, listen, this was like his first year. I was down in Miami. I said, y'all, a second term ain't promised. You better get as much as you can while you can. And this is why I totally disagreed with the folk who were like, well, no, we got to sit here and walk quietly. I was like, hell, I said, we may never, ever in our lifetime see a Black person in the Oval Office. I said, man, you better be like Martin Lawrence, ride that sucker till the wheels fall off.
Roland, yeah. Hey, a lot of people think that I'm a Barack Obama hater. I am not. I refer to him as Chocolate Wonder is his alter ego. That's when he really goes and does some more crazy stuff, like not mention Jeremiah Wright when he's sitting dead ass in your face at Jesse Jackson's funeral. At that point, he's a Chocolate Wonder. But I don't blame Barack Obama. I blame us for exactly what you said. We should have forced him. Here we are on Juneteenth Eve. Abraham Lincoln, as the good brother Lerone Bennett said in his book, Forced into Glory, he said he think Abraham Lincoln's hand was shaking when he signed the Emancipation Proclamation. He was forced into glory because we was getting ready to overwhelm this thing and bust out of slavery either way. If we had treated the President of the United States, the 44th, the way that we claim we want to treat the other presidents, he would have been forced into even more glory. It would have been something different. And you're absolutely right. Now here, let's be very clear about what Mark Wayne Mullen, a white passing Cherokee, because Cherokee don't have blood quantum. So he's always claiming he's Cherokee. But the thing about Cherokee Nation is they don't count you as Cherokee or not based on how much blood you have. They got political designations. So you're a white passing Cherokee if you're Cherokee at all, punk ass Mark Wayne Mullen. But at any rate, you can't overturn disparate impact with an executive order or a monkey policy change, whether it be Department of Justice or any of the other federal departments. The right to bring disparate impact claims was decided by the Supreme Court in 1971 in a case called Griggs versus Duke Power Company. If you can prove disparate impact, I didn't intend on doing it yet, but look at the impact it has had. It was codified by Congress in the Civil Rights Act of 1991. Now, that means we got to get out here and vote and make sure that they don't try to do it. It's all in Project 2025. This is more saber-rattling. You can still bring a claim. You can still have that claim ruled in your favor. What this is the federal government saying we're not going to prioritize those claims, or we're going to not only deprioritize, we're going to interpret what disparate impact is differently. But they did not change the law. They don't have the ability to do that. The courts have to interpret the statute, and it was very explicit in 1991. All of that comes down to this. This is consistent warfare, y'all. The former Attorney General, Eric Holder, said this today at the Obama Center unveiling. He said, so Fannie Lou Hamer was tired. John Lewis was tired. You tired? He said, if you're tired, then go take a nap. Sound like EPMD. If you're tired, then go take a nap and then get up and keep fighting. You don't think they were tired? So this is what we have to do. And I do want to mention as it relates to Africa, we know Africa has problems right now. South Africa, the xenophobic stuff against Nigerians, against Zimbabweans, all this is economic pressure brought on in part because of what you said, Roland, that structuring. There's a good show on the weekends on YouTube called The Africa News Review. A good brother out of Nigeria, out of Study Speaks Knowledge, Ayef Eneli, and a beautiful journalist who's been doing this for a couple of generations. You probably know him, Roland, out of New York, Milton Alamati, out of Uganda. They keep up with all this stuff. Nobody's saying Africa is perfect. Nobody's saying anybody is perfect. But we are saying this, to your point. We have to inform ourselves, because a story like that will have people thinking, oh, they stripped our right. No. You can still bring a disparate impact claim. Mark Wayne Mullen and all them hillbillies up there are simply trying to throw everything against the wall to take us off our square. And that's why we have to inform ourselves.
Indeed. Folks, there's a lot of other stuff we wanted to get to, but you know what? I believe in let the spirit move, and we just let it flow. That's another reason why I want to have my own show, because this was some bullshit on CNN. After 8 minutes, gotta leave it there. We gotta leave it there. I hate those shows because they really don't give an opportunity to break stuff down, to go in depth, and to teach as well. So let me thank Larry, Reese, and Greg. Happy Juneteenth to all three of you. I truly appreciate it. Thank you so very much. Folks, let's go to Black Star Network.
Hey, Roland, you said you're not going to be on the air tomorrow?
Nope. No, so I gave our folks the day off tomorrow.
The Juneteenth off. Well, then tonight, and I said that this morning we were on Urban View. I said, Roland Martin is not going to miss an opportunity to note the fact that in 1872, it was John Henry Yates that put the Emancipation Proclamation together to have that Juneteenth. So you gotta give up Jack.
Of course. And what a lot of people don't realize is that it was freed slaves who acquired lots of land all across the South and called it Emancipation Land. That's what they actually phrase it. So yeah, that land there in 3rd Ward where Emancipation Park sits, and they have Juneteenth celebration takes place there. And of course, Jack Yates, my alma mater, named after Reverend Jack Yates. And so absolutely. And so we had, of course, Representative Al Edwards' son on the show yesterday, talking about the role that his dad played in getting Juneteenth passed June 7th, 1979. And what I didn't realize is that before it was a federal holiday, that Al Edwards went to multiple state capitals to get Juneteenth declared holidays there. And so it was recognized in 45 states before it became a federal holiday. And so, again, one of the reasons why it's important to have shows like this here that breaks down that sort of history that you damn sure not going to get on a lot of these black radio shows, a lot of these black podcasts, and you damn sure ain't going to get them on ABC, NBC, CBS, and the rest of them folk. You ain't going to get that at all. So again, I'm going to thank our panel. I appreciate it. Let's go to Black Star Network headlines.
The Chicago college student who admitted to lighting a cross on fire in Grant Park in Chicago earlier this month will be charged with a hate crime. Police arrested 21-year-old Merlin Liu and charged him with 4 felony counts and 4 misdemeanor counts related to the June 9th incident. Liu says the act was intended as a protest against President Donald Trump, not against black people. A change.org petition calling for a street in Chicago to be renamed after former President Barack Obama is picking up steam. The petition calls for Wabash Avenue downtown in Chicago to be renamed President Barack Obama Avenue. In addition to honoring the first Black president, the name change would also be a slight to President Trump, as it would change the address of the Trump International Hotel and Tower to 401 Barack Hussein Obama Avenue. The 92-story skyscraper is one of the Trump Organization's key properties. Bryce Jones, who started the petition, said this move would send a small message about the values we uphold as a city, those of inclusivity, resilience, and forward-thinking change. Now Jones is calling on Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson and city council members to give serious consideration to the rebranding proposal, which he said would immortalize small acts of resistance in our cityscape. In Louisiana, a new law to protect people working behind the counter in restaurants, stores, and other service businesses will go into effect. Governor Jeff Landry signed the Behind Act Protection Act into law. He signed the bill earlier today. The new measure toughens penalties for those who threaten or attack workers at service points. Supporters said the law is modeled after protections already in place for healthcare workers. Businesses will also be able to post signs warning customers that workplace violence against employees can lead to an arrest and conviction. A simple battery conviction against a covered worker carries up to $2,000 fine and or 2 years in prison. Simple assault carries up to a $1,000 fine and possibly 6 months in jail. This law goes into effect on August 1st. Grammy-nominated rapper Mystical, whose real name is Michael Tyler, will spend the next 2 decades in prison after pleading guilty to third-degree rape. The rapper, best known for his early 2000 hits, Danger and Shake It Fast, was arrested in 2022 and charged with rape, robbery, domestic abuse, battery, strangulation, false imprisonment, and other charges. In March, Tyler entered a guilty plea, which knocked his first-degree rape charge down to third degree. In Louisiana, first-degree rape carries a maximum life sentence. In 2003, Tyler pleaded guilty to sexual battery. He served 6 years in prison and was released in 2010. During Tuesday's sentencing, the victim appeared in court and requested the maximum sentence. She said that Tyler punched, choked, pulled braids out of her hair, and forcibly raped her at his home in 2022. 55-year-old Tyler responded with, "If I did that to you, I deserve the max sentence." He was sentenced to 20 years without the possibility of parole. Gas prices across the country have fallen below $4 per gallon for the first time in months. The national average for a gallon of regular gas now stands at $3.99. It marks the first time since March that prices have dipped below the $4 mark. The drop comes after a U.S.-Iran agreement helped ease concerns about global oil supplies and push crude oil prices lower. Prices still vary widely across the country, with drivers in California paying an average of $5.64 per gallon, and drivers in South Carolina paying about $3.58 per gallon. Gas prices remain about 25% higher than they were this time last year, and experts say it could take weeks or even months for global oil supplies to recover fully.
Folks, that's it. Be sure to catch Brittany Noble every day, noon Eastern, right here on the Black Star Network with a breakdown with Brittany Noble. Folks, that's it for us. Now, again, tomorrow is Juneteenth. I hope whatever you're doing, whether you are celebrating, going to concerts, going to Black History events, or whatever, be sure that you also understand that Juneteenth was not just about celebration. It was also about the continuing quest for freedom. And so please incorporate voter registration into what you do. Please, citizenship education, all those things, it's really important for you to do that. And so I really hope that you do that. It's really important because, again, listen, we are living in difficult times. We're living in a moment that for lots of people, it is very difficult. And so what is required of us in this moment is to use all of our powers to educate, to enlighten, to inform folks about what's going on. And so we really hope that's what you do. Earlier today, I actually was in Maryland, and a brother who does a lot of great work with young folks in Baltimore held his golf tournament. Chu Smith is his name, quite well known. And when you talk about a lot of stuff that young folks go through. He said something that blew me away when he said that that he has had to bury 20 or 30 young folks. He described some horrific things that young folks in Baltimore are having to deal with. And so he wants to make it his mission to support them. And so he had that golf tournament today. And just here's a little bit of what he said when I caught up with him at the conclusion. Sorry about that. Looks like so we had some having some audio issues. I'll go ahead and fix that. But let me do this here. We had his golf tournament, and if you want to support what he does, again, he is working there with young folks. You can do this here. You can text CHEW to 53555 if you want to donate to support what he's doing. And so the arts program, the STEM program, the education program, the violence prevention programs, the QR code is there as well. This is a brother who is out there doing the work, who is, of course, not just, partying, having fun. No, he is really out there staying busy. He has a Chew Smith Youth Empowerment, CSYE. And, of course, Chew Smith is a former Harlem Globetrotter, and he founded this in the, of course, program dedicated through sports, education, mentorship. And, again, they utilize basketball as a tool to teach financial literacy, leadership, civic engagement as well. And so to support his foundation, do me a favor, text CHEW to 53555 to donate, and the QR code is there as well. So please support. So it doesn't matter if it's $1, $5, $10, or even more. Every dollar helps. And, Reese talked about it, it's about us. And so we got to be able to support our own. And so this is one of those programs that is supporting folks right there in Baltimore. All right, folks, that is it for us. If you want to support the work that we do, join our Bring the Funk fan club. You want to contribute via Cash App, use a Stripe QR code. You see it right here. This is also for credit cards. If you're listening, go to blackstarnetwork.com for all ways to donate. Checks and money order, make it payable to Roland Martin Unfiltered. P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo RM Unfiltered. Zelle Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Download the Black Star Network app. Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Amazon Fire TV, Roku, Samsung Smart TV. You want to get our Roland Martin Unfiltered swag, our hats and T-shirts and mugs, all that good stuff, go to shopblackstarnetwork.com. Shopblackstarnetwork.com. Also, all the products you see in our studio are available in our marketplace section at shopblackstarnetwork.com. All of these products, folks, please support them. We got some great products, and when you buy these products from us, you also support this show as well. So go to shopblackstarnetwork.com. Folks, don't forget to also download the app Fan Base. Follow me at Roland S. Martin. Please do so. And like I said, we do not have a show tomorrow. We are going to have Juneteenth content, different interviews that we've done, some stuff that Greg has done as well. So look forward to that. And so we're also going to be restreaming this great discussion that Greg had with the author of the book, The Lumumba Plot. Something that you definitely want to check out. Folks, that is it. I'm going to see you on Monday. I'm going to be in Columbus, Ohio for the State of Black America. I'll be joined with Congresswoman Joyce Beatty. And so look forward to being in Columbus. And so I hope, and don't forget also this weekend was taking place, a lot of different events taking place in Georgia. They've got a Juneteenth parade with the King Center from 10 a.m. to 12. And so that's taking place. And on Monday, People Over Maps Day at Central Presbyterian Church from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. It's taking place, and that's all in Georgia. Now, in Harlem, they're going to have When We Fight, We Win, Freedom Summer. That's taking place at the Adam Clayton Powell Jr. State Office Building. That's right. Go to freedomsummer2026.com. freedomsummer2026.com. Let me say it again, freedomsummer2026.com. And for the event taking place in Harlem. I'll find out if they're going to be streaming it. And so I know I was talking to them about that, so I'll get more details on that. And as I said, for those of y'all who are in Columbus, Ohio, I'll be doing the show from Columbus, but then also I'm going to be having the State of Black America be joined with Congresswoman Joyce Beatty. So the tickets are free. We're going to be live at the Lincoln Theater from 7 to 9 p.m. For more information, register at thestateofblackamerica.myle.com. thestateofblackamerica.myle.com. This is part of the Black Girl Dad Week 2026 and the Black Father-Daughter Dance. And so look forward to that. So again, I'll be there with Congresswoman Joyce Beatty. You know, she'll be all smiling after she kicked Donald Trump's butt when it came to the Kennedy Center. Folks, that's it. Yeah, you see me rocking my Juneteenth, breaking every chain since 1865. And so one of my Juneteenth shirts. All right, y'all, that's it. Have a fabulous, fabulous Juneteenth. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you Monday live from Columbus, Ohio. Holla!